You might notice the channel looks a little bit different. However, I'm not going anywhere. I'm still very much a fan of Ozone and own Simply O3. However, in this video, I do want to just kind of give you guys an update on what's happened over the last year. I'm not going to go much into detail and reasons. I'm going to talk a little bit kind of in ambiguous terms and then look forward to the future. I am going to share kind of what I've learned through all the challenges and the turbulence of the last year. It's been one of the most challenging years of my life, actually, but in a lot of good ways too. You know, God often takes those moments and really plants seeds in your life that allow you to grow, that are a catalyst. You know, we've talked a lot about how a stress can make you stronger. And that's a principle of life, right? That applies to so many different aspects. So you want to learn, well, you have to go through a little bit of stress of like engaging your brain, engaging your mind so that you can have more knowledge. Or if you want to grow in character, you have to go through a trial and persevere through that so that you can grow on the other side of it. So you might be thinking, well, what is the future of this channel then? I'm going to get into it, but first I want to tell you some of the lessons that I learned over the past year. So I would say at a very high level that my life was completely out of order. What do I mean by that? Well, I believe that God is a God of order and that your life needs to reflect order. So what does that mean? That means putting God first, then your spouse, then your family, then your health, and then your business. And what I started to do is I started to idolize my business. I started to really just think through that lens. So even being home, I would be home, but I wouldn't be present. I would be off in my mind. I'm not, if you meet me in person, you know, I'm not like a huge talker. I'm not very talkative, but my mind is always running. It's always going. And so that was pulling me away from my family. That was pulling me away from my faith in a lot of really troublesome areas. So, and it wasn't like this, Micah's like way down in the dumps kind of thing, but you know, it was a little bit more subtle, but still very insidious in a way because I was really prioritizing business over my family, over my health. If you guys have watched some of the videos in the past, you noticed I gained weight. It was kind of business over everything. I even quit doing some of the best practices that were good for my health, probably for a year and a half, a year, something like that, and really started to backslide. It was just kind of this moment where I came to that I said, you know what? Business and doing good in the world, because that was the initial intention, and then it kind of rolled into just like, I need to get all this done. That can be done on 40, 50, 60 hours a week. And waking up at 2 a.m. or not being able to sleep because you're thinking about work is unsustainable. And it's truly unhelpful. Like there was very few times that those kinds of thoughts actually produced something that was productive and loving and caring and meaningful to the world. And I was just stressing myself out, putting a much bigger burden on myself than was necessary. You know, it's still possible to get all these amazing things done, to really help people, to give them information about, you know, things out there that might not be so common or might not be found in the hospitals or in conventional care. So that can all be done, but you got to place your life in the right order. And one of my friends, Justin Rothling-Schofer, which you might have seen one of the webinars with him, but something he told me that kind of stuck out to me was that if your life is out of order, you're chasing life. If you put your life in the right order of God, spouse, family, health, and then business, then life begins to chase you. And that didn't make a ton of sense to me at first. But what I noticed when I started to put the work in of doing the morning disciplines of the journaling, the praying, the reading, the breathing, the exercising, the spending time and being intentional with my kids and trying to grow them up into humans who are going to be sharing the love of God in the world. Once I started to do those things and really put my mind in that perspective, I noticed that things just started to come much easier. Things didn't seem so stressful. Things didn't feel so burdensome. And so it was a really important year for me. And I know not everybody's going to relate to that. You know, this is my story and what God has been sharing with me over the last year. And, you know, typically I haven't talked so much about my faith, but, you know, I'm getting a little bit more bold in that, thankfully, you know, and it's been really good from that standpoint. So although it's been kind of year of trials and difficulty, it's been on the other side of it, it's been one of the best years. And Simply 03 is what you guys are familiar with, what you guys know. It's doing well. It's had better years in the past, but we're doing well and we're keeping strong. We're still trying very hard as much as possible to get the word out about ozone and all those different things. So. But yeah, it's overall, I would say, been a good year. And so where I was at about a year ago is the team at Simply 03 was doing a fantastic job, and I had a little bit more time on my hands. But if you like your job and you love what you do and you want to help people, you're going to keep doing stuff. I'm not just going to kick back and kind of take it easy. So I was kind of looking for something to fill a little bit of that time with. I was doing a lot of podcasts and different things, but the day-to-day, I wasn't answering phones and doing all that stuff like I had done for so many years. So people were very helpful in that regard. So I was introduced to a Dr. Panise Jasby about a year and a half ago, and it was a very serendipitous meeting. Through a mutual friend, Dr. Tom Seeger, which you guys might be familiar with because of the ice baths. He's a professor at ASU, and Panise was a PhD researcher at ASU. And Panise got on to a Zoom call, and he was talking about his research. So he has research that's on early detection of stage 1 breast cancer, early detection of Alzheimer's, and a wealth of other things. He introduced the idea of digital twinning to me. And so many different aspects of how people can look at their health in a totally new way. And so after that meeting, I was really moved by what Dr. Jasby had talked about because, if you know my story, my brother had brain cancer, right? So he was in the medical system, was kind of going through it. There was even one point that physicians had recommended he take a particular drug. However, that drug was very toxic. And when you looked at the literature, it was only helpful for about 13% of people. And that was because those 13% of people had a certain gene. So they didn't test him for this gene. And that's kind of when I started to kind of have this worldview shift among some other things, some other short stories I've shared at that time where I was like, we really don't know everything that's going on in health and wellness, do we? We don't have the full picture. We like to think that we're progressing, that cancer is making progress. It's had a 2% increase in 50 years, by the way. But, it's really for how much we're spending, how much intention we're putting in it. The system that we've set up isn't operating ideally. I think we can safely say that it's not ideal, right? People are chronically sick in a country that has more money than any other country, and yet we're one of the sickest countries out there. And healthcare is crazy expensive. It's just kind of a wild system, right? So anyway, Matt has this brain cancer, and he's getting questionable care. And so that starts to shift your mind of, well, what are some things that might be helpful to Matt? What are some things that might make him feel better? And I was pretty young at the time, going through nursing school, wanted to be a physician, all that kind of stuff. And one of the guys at our church actually recommended hyperbaric oxygen, and that was massively helpful to him. More energy, better sleep, reduced nausea, all the things, right? And so that kind of opens up your mind like, wow, there's this thing out there that's relatively simple. It's non-toxic. It's an adjunct to all the stuff that he's doing, and it's massively helpful to him. Yet Johns Hopkins kind of treats it as, yeah, buddy, if you want to do that makes you feel better mentally, then go for it, because it's not interfering with the real work that we're doing over here. So that kind of disenchanted me a bit from that system and that school of thought. And that led me to a place of like, well, there's other things out there. There's things that can be helpful for people. And Matt did pass away in 2018, unfortunately, but he lived approximately 16 years longer than the practitioners anticipated. And I was really thankful. We worked together on Simply 03 and on ozone together for a number of years before he passed. So after going through that experience, which you can imagine is pretty painful, it starts to shift your mind of how can I get rid of some of this stuff? How can I make this better, right? And so you take that pain and you turn it into something that can be positive. So my thought process was, I just want to help the next person along. And that's when, I started to do writing and all that kind of stuff. But, when I met Dr. Jasby, I thought if we had gotten this to Matt early on, he would probably still be alive. And so I wrote to Dr. Jasby afterwards. I said, hey, you have an incredible thing. And I'm going to get into a little bit more detail on what it is, but you have an incredible thing. Don't let somebody come and take it away from you, like a business person that's going to make big promises and promise to make you wealthy, because that will come, and that has come, right? There have been many people who have offered to invest, and potentially he would lose control of this product that has immense potential to actually be quite revolutionary, in my opinion. So that started my relationship with him, because he took that just as that built a lot of trust with him, because I was saying, like, hey, I'm not your guy. There's a number of guys who can kind of help you get to some of the places that you want to go at the beginning. Just be careful, because there's going to be some offers out there that are going to essentially try to steal this away from you. And so that built a lot of trust. And so over the next 6-7 months or so, we kept on in contact. We talked quite a bit. I was there to try to support as much as I could what he was doing, but I had no interest in being a part of it. So over that 6 months, though, I kind of learned even more about what he's doing. So there was a few different things. Number one, it's not a diagnostic tool, but the research that Dr. Jasby has is on, a lot of it is on early detection. So if you just go to Google Scholar, type in Dr. Panise Jasby, you'll find some things. And if you can detect cancer at stage 1, and again, I'm not saying that his test does this, I'm just saying his research has this. The outcomes radically improve in terms of living. So people have a 95% likelihood of surviving if they catch it at stage 1. And that's not over 5 years, that's over 20 years. And that's not with conventional therapies necessarily, that's across the board, right? So you go to a very high likelihood of living. And even if you catch it at a late stage, some of the other stuff that they're doing, and again, I'm not saying his test does this, I'm saying he has research on this. So another thing he does with his test is called digital twinning. A digital twin is when you take somebody's data. So there's all this, these markers available. You guys might be familiar with normal blood panels, cholesterol, testosterone, whatever, right? Those are markers. Those are the biomarkers. So Dr. Jasby, on a few drops of blood, 6 drops of blood or so, can actually pick up 126 different markers. But what they do is then they take those 126 markers, they upload them into an offline computer, so it's not in the cloud or anything like that. But then they've banked all this research, all this great body of science on these different things, whether that be red light therapy or sauna therapy or ice bath or certain diets or certain ways of exercising or certain supplements, times of day to take them, the amount of milligrams to take them, interventions that might be a little bit more invasive. So there's this huge body of information that they've mapped, and they said, okay, these are how these things affect these markers. And so what they do is they run thousands of simulations with these things over here, all these interventions, to see what is going to get this person the healthiest, the quickest. And the really cool thing is he has no bias. So most of these testing companies out there, they're actually supplement companies that are disguised as testing companies. If you understand business, it's considered a loss leader when you test somebody, right? So they give you the test for $100, $200 or whatever, and then they sell all the supplements because they're like, all right, we just want to get people in the door with the test because we know that increases compliance. People are more likely to take supplements. But then the supplementation regimen is pretty broad brushstroke. It's just, take your magnesium, your B12, your folic acid, what have you. And so there's some inherent flaws in how that testing is done. Not to mention that a lot of it is done on pretty shoddy science. It's created by business people that are there to make a dollar, not necessarily push the edge of science and what can actually help people. And I'm not saying it's all bad by any means. There are some good health testing companies out there. but it's a little bit of a messy space. I'm not going to lie. So Dr. Jasby has no bias, right? So what does that mean? That it's not going to make recommendations other than what it determines is going to be actually best for your health, because there's no financial incentive whatsoever providing you with a certain supplementation pack or a certain intervention pack. It's really just trying to find what is going to be best for you. And there is nobody else on the market that is currently doing that. So it's really impactful. And while I was editing this, I noticed there was a couple things. One, I left a lot of great information out. But two, the more important thing is that if you want a sample report and Dr. Jasby's book, you can actually go to www.therio.me/guide. And you'll get access to a free guide. The next page after you opt in for that, you can actually sign up for a chance to talk with Dr. Jasby. Not for a chance, but you can sign up to talk with him one-on-one about what he's created, which can be massively insightful. So I just wanted to mention that because he does have a book. He has a ton of publications as well. He has a sample report, and you'll be able to schedule a time with him one-on-one if you want to. Again, the link is www.therio.me/guide. But that's one level of what Dr. Jasby created. There's another level to it. It's called systems biology, right? So we have these different systems that make you, right? So you have your genome, your genetics, right? Your proteome, your transcriptome, your microbiome, your metabolome. So there's all these layers of what is happening in your body to make you. And they have different reasons you might use one. A genetic test might be useful for, certain gene expressions and understanding what's happening on a genetic level. However, it's like a little bit limited. It doesn't show the dynamic, the year to year, the changes that you go through and what you can do about that. Still good though. And then you have your proteins, your different things. So what he has created is a platform that can integrate all these things and make sense of them, which nobody in the world has yet done to date successfully. And so there's these different systems that all play together. And when you get the understanding of what's happening between those systems, you get much deeper insight. You get a much better understanding of the state of health in the body, and on a theoretical level, scientific level, if they were doing research, they might be able to understand very early detection. Again, I'm not saying this test does that. I'm saying that there's research on that kind of thing. But there's all sorts of stuff that can be done once you have that translation. We're calling it the Human Atlas Project because it's creating the blueprint, the master plan of what is happening in the body. And it has no bias. You don't necessarily take this chemotherapy that works for 56% of people. You get prescribed what is going to work best for you. Right? And so that's it's a big deal. It's huge. There's the institution and the ways that medicine is done. So one option is to reform, right? To work within that system and to reform it. Another option is to make what's called a parallel institution, something that builds alongside it that can eventually be a counterpart to the system that exists. And so there's kind of this vision of how can we create unquestionably, like we have the best information, the best data. We can spin out studies like that because there's so much information on what's happening in people's body, and we have no bias on what they do or what they take or any of that kind of stuff. So I want to show you something I'm really proud of that I've been working on for the past year alongside Dr. Jasby, Dr. Alex Moore. Let me show you. This little box here probably would have saved Matt's life. And I'm really thankful for the life that Matt had, but there's a lot of people out there that are suffering and have things that are going on and pain, and I've talked with so many of you. I've spent thousands of hours on the phone talking with you guys about all sorts of stuff, and I don't really do the phone calls anymore, but I meet people in person and all that kind of stuff. So I'm absolutely excited for the potential of this. And, you know, it looks like a nice little box, a nice little sample kit. Oh boy, another product. To me, it's so much more than that. It's the future of medicine. It's an avenue to save people from so much pain, you know, to help parents with their kids, to kids will have their grandparents around. Brothers will have their brothers around. That won't be so scary as to what to do and how to approach it. And I'm not saying it's going to solve every problem on the face of the planet. Obviously, that's impossible. We're all going to die someday. But if we can alleviate as much of that pain as possible, if we can provide insight into people's health status without financial bias as much as possible, if we can hopefully start to transform how physicians are thinking about medicine and going to precision medicine and really getting to the individual, what the individual needs, we have, you know, a shot for some pretty massive impact. Again, if you want to learn about health testing and how it can potentially impact your life and a little bit about the vision about it, you can go to the link right here, www.therio.me/guide. You'll get access to the sample report, Dr. Jasby's book, and in addition, you'll have an opportunity to schedule a time one-on-one with Dr. Jasby to learn a little bit more about what he's been doing. So go to this link if you're interested in that health testing I was talking about. And this isn't just some pie-in-the-sky thing. Like Dr. Jasby, Dr. Moore, and the other researchers there are very well published. Like they're pioneers in their area. They're very well respected in their fields. We even had a call yesterday with some guy who found us and said, "Hey, I'm gonna have this platform that's going out to millions of people. You guys have the best test. I want that one." And so it's like, it's really exciting to see. And, you know, we're still a small company, right? Like with this company, I'm still, I'm helping out with all the different things. But I'm a partner in this company now too. I never said that. So what happened, because I initially had no desire to necessarily work with it, is Dr. Jasby won me over. I just came to the point that I said, this has to exist. This has to, and I'm scared of somebody coming along that's going to impose their own mission or their more, financially oriented vision onto the business. And maybe it starts making recommendations towards the products that are going to be the best for them. And we don't have all the products mapped in there, all the different things that people can do. There's a few thousand though, as a starting point, and then it's going to grow from there. But it's really incredible. So this has been a long video. It's been a wild year. You know, I'm really thankful for you guys. I know I'm just talking to a camera right now and you guys are just watching through a screen, but you guys have really changed my perspective on life in so many ways. And I have relationships with so many of you that are currently watching this that I am eternally grateful for. I mean, I just can't be more thankful for what we have going, and how we support each other and all the different things. So I'm really looking forward to the future. I'm really excited about what is to come. And this channel, I never mentioned also, what are we going to be doing on this channel now? So I obviously have a huge passion on ozone. I have a huge passion on Therium, this health testing company. I'm not going to be talking about ozone so much, but I am going to be talking about this health testing company. I'm going to be talking about some other things that I'm interested in. If you follow me on Instagram at Micah for Health, you'll notice that I am doing a lot of ice baths and different things. I haven't posted so much in the last year, but ice baths have been a passion of mine for a while. We're going to be talking with various experts, people that are truly experts in their field. That is one cool thing that I have access to, is that I'm actually out meeting people. I know a ton of people in the industry. And I have an eye for who knows their stuff and who's there to sell things. So, I'm going to be bringing on some of those friends and some of those people onto the channel just to do some interviews as there's topics that are popping up that seem to be needed to be talked about. And so that's kind of the future of the channel, is health testing, things I'm just personally interested in and hopefully are helpful to you. By the way, ice baths got rid of my asthma. Nothing else got rid of my asthma. That's why I'm into them. I didn't anticipate that to happen, but that's what happened. And I should say symptoms of asthma. Maybe I still have it, but I haven't had any symptoms in years of asthma, which has been really incredible. Anyway, I'm rambling on. Thank you guys. Love you. Appreciate you. And we'll see you next time.